Namaskar friends, welcome to our next webinar on GST. I on behalf of Ishtali Study Circle welcome all of you to this webinar, and we are very thankful that our guest speaker, Advocate Shivashish Karnani ji and Advocate Rohit Arora ji has already come. Welcome sir. Friends, today we are going to discuss two important topics. First, interplay of GST law with other law, and the second, emerging litigation under GST law. So first topic will be taken care by Shivashish ji. Just to have a brief about Shivashish ji, as you know, Shivashish ji is a chartered accountant as well as advocate from DU, or currently is a practicing advocate, and is a regular speaker, is an author, or you can also see some good article in various magazines. Currently he is associated with Diwan PN Chopra and Company, which is one of the famous or renowned CA firm in Delhi. Apart from that, he is also associated with Vidhiman, that is a corporate law advisor from as a Vidhiman GST professional, as a executive editor. तो शिवाशीष जी का ये परिचय इन ब्रीफ परिचय है. एंड एडवोकेट रोहित अरोड़ा जी, वी आर वेरी थैंकफुल कि रोहित जी हमारे साथ रुद्रपुर से जुड़ रहे हैं. रोहित जी LLB हैं, ही इज फ्रॉम DU, पास आउट, अर्लियर स्टेंट विद बिग 4, और इन्होंने काफ़ी अच्छे आर्टिकल्स लिख रखे हैं कार्बन क्रेडिट पे और सोलर टेक इंडस्ट्री पे. साथ ही साथ बिग 4 फॉर्च्यून 500 कंपनीज में काम करने का बहुत ही लंबा एक्सपीरियंस है, और इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स में एज अ लिटिगेशन हो, चाहे एज और भी काम हो, चाहे इंसेंटिव स्कीम्स हो, डिफरेंट तरीके से ये अपने क्लाइंट्स की हेल्प करते रहते हैं एज ए रेगुलर स्पीकर ऑन दैट. तो थैंक यू सो मच रोहित जी फॉर ज्वाइनिंग today's webinar from Rudrapur. I hope weather is good there.
Yes sir, a little bit. Delhi की comparison में अच्छा है.
Okay sir. तो what we discussed with Shivashish ji ki first session will be taken by Shivashish ji, right? And thereafter the next session will be taken care by you. So I think already time हो रहा है, and अब हमें ज़्यादा समय नहीं लेना चाहिए, and straight away I would like to invite Shivashish ji to start his deliberation. Over to you Shivashish ji.
थैंक यू संदीप सर. आवाज मेरी क्लियर है सर?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल क्लियर है सर.
अच्छा, वीडियो इज आल्सो क्लियर?
जी बिल्कुल.
ओके, सो आई एम जस्ट शेयरिंग माय स्क्रीन, जस्ट अ सेकंड. Hope the screen is visible to each and everyone.
Correct. It's visible.
Yes. So we would be having this webinar in a discussion format. As in, I would like to get my thoughts also cleared on certain facts, and would be putting forth my understanding of the interplay before you. So as such, rather than having this as a monologuous kind of thing, let's have a discussion kind of thing, so that we all get the benefit out of this webinar. So the reason for understanding interplay of GST law with other laws is because of the fact there are certain laws which play various importance in the commercial transaction when we are working in a commercial sphere. When we are advising any business entity, the business entity doesn't function in a unidirectional thing, as in just complying with GST law. Business entity has to function in an ecosystem, and that ecosystem is also regulated by various other laws and regulations which are framed by the government. And for that reason, it is relevant that we understand that in what ecosystem that particular transaction is being done, so that our advice is not unidirectional. When we advise anything to our client, it doesn't look like that we are not actually complying with the other laws or regulations, or it is actually not practicable to follow that advice. And for that reason, it is very much relevant that we understand and implement what are the other laws which have impact on the GST law as in business transactions. And this is what this slide was all about. So any advice given only considering GST law is unidirectional and is in not a complete advice, it is an incomplete advice, and for that reason we should look after other laws. And it is also helpful in making submissions before the authority that see, I haven't complied, or the meaning of that particular GST law is this, and the understanding can be derived from the other laws which make a clear cut understanding on that particular provision. So let's discuss one of the provision which is really very relevant in the business transactions. We see in our daily transactions, business transactions. So let us say a company is taking loan, and for the purpose of that loan, either the bankers look out for some securities, or the bankers say that you get me a corporate guarantee for that loan. If in case you default, I would be able to recover that loan amount from that corporate. And even in that case, wherein the corporate guarantee is not available, so let us say holding company is not able to give a guarantee on behalf of a subsidiary company because of XYZ reason, because of any reason, or let us say there is a standalone entity and that entity doesn't have any holding or a subsidiary company. So what happens generally is the bank seeks the guarantee of directors. There is someone's mic. So normally what happens is I think sir किसी की आवाज आ रही है, ये कुछ भी निकाल सकते हैं, दुर्गा दास सर की आ रही है, डीडी अग्रवाल सर की. So what happens is the bank would be asking the guarantees of the directors. Now I wish to understand your views on this, whether in case when the guarantee is given to a bank by a director on behalf of a company in which he's a director, he's giving guarantee to a bank, whether that transaction is liable to GST, where that transaction is liable to GST even when the director is not charging anything. What is your views on that? I would like to have your views on that. A director providing guarantee to bank for a loan which is being given to a company. So whether in this case, whether the GST authorities are going to say to that director whether you are liable to pay the tax, what is your view on that? So see, the chat box is running. I would be viewing your views on the chat box. You can mention your views on the chat box. So my question is whether the GST authorities would be recovering any tax from the director for the guarantee which is being provided by the director to the company, and the director is also not charging any consideration. So we understand that under GST there is a requirement of consideration. Any views on this? GST department is right. Sandeep Sharma ji has said this. So again, when we go to GST law only, this view from Sandeep Sharma is totally correct, because they say that the director and the company are related persons, first thing. And in case where the directors and company are related persons, in that case, even when a transaction is happening without consideration, the open market value of that transaction has to be determined in terms of Rule 28, and accordingly the GST authority would say that see, if the directors and the company would not have been a related person, in that case what percentage would have been taken by some other person for the purpose of giving that guarantee. So he would be taking that open market value and would be levying the tax. However, as I said, that I would be not looking only into the GST law. I would be looking further beyond the GST law to get the answer of this transaction. So when we go to RBI directions, I am moving to next slide. When we go to RBI direction, so there is a RBI master direction, master circular, which was issued in year 2015, wherein it has been specifically stated that, I am reading those lines from the circular. The system of obtaining guarantees should not be used by directors and other managerial personnel as a source of income from the company. Bank should obtain an undertaking from the borrowing company as well as guarantors, that is directors, that no consideration whether by way of commission, brokerage fees or any other form would be paid by the company or received by the director directly or indirectly. This requirement should be incorporated in the bank's terms and condition and for sanctioning of the credit limit. The reason I produce this provision is because of the fact the purpose for which Schedule First was created under GST law was because of the fact the Parliament was of the view that in certain transactions, there would be no open market value because related persons are involved. However, in this peculiar case, in the given facts, when a particular law, legislation or a regulation which is mandatorily required to be followed, and in that case, that regulation specifically says that there cannot be any consideration which can be charged by directors, and when any consideration has been charged by directors for the purpose of giving that guarantee, the directors would be penalized and liable for penalty and prosecution under the RBI and FEMA laws. In that case, whether we can still say that the Parliament would have envisaged this particular transaction, in that case also the Parliament would be understanding that we are going to make this transaction liable to tax. In my view, no. This is the result of unidirectional advice which we normally give to our clients, because in my understanding, if we produce this direction to any GST authority, they would also be able to understand that had it been a rental services, the case would have been different. Director giving his premises on the rent to the company and not charging any consideration, that can be covered under the Schedule First. However, covering a particular transaction which is barred by the law cannot be said to be covered or intended by the Parliament to be taxed under GST, because the Parliament envisaged some other type of transactions while framing that Schedule First. And for that reason, in my view, when a particular thing is illegal or barred by a particular legislation or a regulation, in that case, it cannot be taxed, even when Schedule First deems it to be a transaction wherein even when there is no consideration, the transaction would be liable to tax. When we go to Rule 28, we are going to get open market value of this transaction to be 0. Let's say the authority says, let's try to derive its open market value. What can be an open market value of a illegal transaction? An illegal transaction doesn't have open market value. And for this reason, according to Rule 28 also, for an open market value, for this type of transaction, the value would be 0. And for that reason, to my understanding, if in case the directors are giving personal guarantees to a corporate, for that reason, these transactions cannot be liable and would not be liable to tax. Normally, we have seen that there are various liaison offices which are being created. Liaison offices are being created for the purpose of correspondence or act as a communication channel. However, when we go to GST authorities, what they are going to say is, they are going to say that whether this is a business, yes, this is a business, because even when there is no profit motive, even when an office cannot supply goods or services, even when it is acting as a communication channel only, even in that case, business is an inclusive definition and would cover those transactions also. When we go to GST authorities, we are going to say that liaison office is only claiming the reimbursement. It is actually in the nature of pure agent which it is working as a pure agency type of thing. The GST authorities would say that profit is not relevant. It is not income tax. It is GST. Even when you are selling the goods or supplying the services on loss, we are going to recover the taxes from you. So there is consideration, there is business, and as such, there is a facilitation, as in it is facilitating its foreign entity and accordingly covered by the services or let us say supply. And for that reason, GST authority says that the transaction is liable to tax. And we have seen various advanced rulings also wherein they have said that this is liable to tax. However, when we go to things which are beyond GST law, we find that there is whole lot of commentary which is being given on the liaison office by the RBI and FEMA directions. What is that commentary? Let's look on that. RBI directions are being issued under Banking Regulation Act and FEMA Foreign Exchange Management Act. Para 4B of the notification number FEMA 22 lists down activities which can be undertaken by a branch office, liaison office. And specifically for liaison office, these are the activities which are being mentioned. Liaison office means a place of business to act as a channel of communication between the principal place of business or head office or by whatever name called and entities in India which does not undertake any commercial trading, industrial activity directly or indirectly and maintains itself out of the inward remittance received from abroad through normal banking channels. So let's assume if I am going to put forward this submission to the GST officer, he is also going to understand that I cannot make someone liable for doing a legal transaction. I cannot say someone that you are covered by the taxation law, GST law, yet you are not a business entity, because under the RBI directions, you are not a business entity. And for this reason, if in case the RBI direction says that it is only a channel of communication, it cannot undertake any commercial, trading, industrial activity directly or indirectly and maintains itself out of the inward remittance received from the abroad through normal banking channels. In that case, the GST authorities may also able to agree. And if in case, obviously, when the GST authorities are not agreeing, there are appellate forums also wherein these submissions can be made. It is further stated by these directions that LO cannot earn profit. It is specifically mentioned in the directions that LO cannot earn profit. Whether or not I am earning profit is secondary thing. When I am debarred by any law that I cannot earn any profit, how can this transaction can be considered to be a business transaction? It cannot sell assets at more than its book value. There is no value of intangibles as in the goodwill, or there is no intangible value which can be taken by liaison office from any person. And for this reason, the liaison office are not actually covered by the business thing also. These are not covered by the consideration thing also. Even though there were favorable rulings from the appellate forums also, advanced ruling things also, there were negative rulings also. But if in case we are going to make these submissions, obviously any authority can at least take some view in our favor in deciding the merits of the case. Any question having anyone till now? Otherwise, we are going to proceed further on this. So these were the two RBI directions which I wanted to share with you guys. So Sandeep sir has said that let's proceed. So here I would be having a particular question from you guys. So there was pandemic and the clients were actually not making payment. The clients were not actually making payments to us. We are actually providing internal audit services to them. Our monthly or let us say quarterly services payments are received on a quarterly basis. Let us say April to June payments are received in the month of July. And these services qualifies to be continuous supply of services because the period of these services exceeds 3 months. It is not the billing cycle which is relevant. It is the continuous nature of the services. Internal audit services or a monthly retainership type of services which a CA firm gives is basically continuous in nature. These qualifies to be continuous supply of services. Now, there was pandemic. Last year also there was lockdown, and last year also there was lockdown. In the month of April, I was providing monthly retainership services, GST compliance services, various other services. The payments were made by the next of the month, by the 10th of the next month. In this particular case, before the COVID, we were actually reporting these transactions in the month in which payment were actually received by us. And this is also in line with the GST law, wherein they say that in case of continuous supply of services, the payments triggers the point for raising the invoice. I have received the payment, and in that case, this is normally in terms of the contractual terms also, wherein monthly payments are being prescribed, and I have raised the invoice and reported in my GST returns. However, during those 3 months, April, May, June, during the month of COVID, the government deferred various timelines for compliances. 3B1, ITC 04, they deferred various timelines. However, I was making internal audit services invoices, retainership services invoices before COVID on a monthly basis. However, I haven't received my payments for three months or 4 months. For that reason, I haven't deposited GST with the government. Whether in this case, whether I was compliant while not depositing GST with the government for these 3-4 months because I haven't received payment from my customers, my clients, I haven't received the payment. Otherwise, I was actually making the payment on monthly basis. I was reporting these transactions on a monthly basis in my GST returns. Whether I was in compliant with the GST law, anyone would like to have his or her views on this? Amit Kumar Agarwal ji has said that no, there was non-compliance. What is the reason for non-compliance, Amit ji, if you can say, and I can help you to get compliant on this. Anyone else would like to have his or her views on this? This is a simple case that we haven't received the payment, and for that reason we haven't reported the invoices also in GST returns. And this is, I mean, this was the practical approach which was followed by each and everyone. Monthly clients we have normally we have our monthly clients from whom we receive monthly income. I think GST to be paid on bill basis and not on receipt basis. Sir, this is totally correct. Agarwal sir has said rightly that GST has to be paid on billing basis. But what is the timeline of billing which is being provided in case of continuous supply of services? In case of continuous supply of services, the GST law says as and when the payment is getting due, in that case, the timeline for raising the invoice triggers and making the payment of GST to government triggers. So let us say for the month of April 2021, when there was pandemic all across India, you haven't received the payment from the client. In the month of May, whether you were not supposed to raise any invoice, you were supposed to raise the invoice. Because in case of continuous supply of services, they say that it is going to be decided by the contractual terms, whether it can be oral or it can be written. Seeing the past nature, wherein the payments were received on a monthly basis, your liability to pay the taxes for the month of May 2021, when all the entire country was suffering from COVID, was in the month of June only. In the month of May, you were required to raise the invoice, and in the month of June, you were supposed to make the payment to the government by the 20th June. However, most of us haven't made the payment. Most of us have raised a consolidated bill of, let us say, 4 months or 6 months and reported that amount in the month of, let us say, August return or September 2021 return, as and when the payment was received from the client. Because who is going to pay the GST amount out of my own pocket because client is not paying me? In this case, we can take the support of contract law and we can document such thing, because as and when the GST authorities are going to come Or let us say, forget about CA firms. In case of rental services also, there is a continuous supply of services, and your client may be having rental income also. He is getting the rent on monthly basis. He was earlier paying the taxes on monthly basis. However, after pandemic, he started for at least 4-5 months, he started paying the rent on a consolidated basis. As and when the GST authorities are going to come, whether they are going to leave you on the reason that there was pandemic, no, they are not going to leave you. They are going to charge the interest and the penal consequences, whatever are applicable. In this case, we can take support from the contract law. What does contract law says in this regard? Section 62, 63 of Indian Contract Act provides for novation, recession, alteration, dispensation, or remission of performance. So what was my performance? My performance was to issue an invoice to that person. That was the original contractual terms. Whether it was written, whether it was implied, that doesn't matter. Contract can be an oral contract also. So in this case, what I can suggest is we can document such thing, and there can be an addendum to that contract, and that can be recorded on email also, that for the period of 6 months, I am taking the example of 6 months, April to September, we are going to amend our contract. We are going to add an addendum to our contract, saying that in respect of 6 months, the auditor, the landlord is going to raise the invoice for 6 months, April to September. This can be recorded on email, and as and when you send out an email, this qualifies to be an amendment in the original contractual terms. And in that case, once the payment terms have been changed, in that case, GST law provides that in that case, issuance of invoice for a period of 6 months is also fully compliant with the GST law. That understanding can be recorded over email, saying that for April to September, I am going to raise an invoice for 6 months. And it is always better that we get a acceptance from the other party also, because other party in any case have delayed our payment. So I don't think there is going to be any concern simply saying that for April to September, there was a single invoice which was raised, and that single invoice is fine. Now question may come that this relates to past period, whether we can amend that terms now also. There is no debarring under the contract law that a thing cannot be changed after 6 months. This email understanding can be written now also, saying that for April to September, we have raised a consolidated invoice for the services, for our internal audit services. We have raised a consolidated invoice. Please confirm this thing over email. Once you get an email, this qualifies to be amendment in the contract. This qualifies to be remission in the performance of the contract, as in there is a remission from monthly performance of the invoicing terms to 6 monthly performance of the invoice terms. And for that reason, this will qualify to be a duly compliant GST invoice under GST law, and there cannot be any interest consequences in that case also. Many of the clients were receiving rental income, but they haven't paid the taxes or they haven't paid the interest. So this can be used, and this can be recorded on email now also. There is another thing that normally what happens is, I am again going to ask your views on this. Normally what happens is, let us say there is a client, there is one of the client called Kent Arora. Kent Arora supplies their RO machines to their distributors, dealers. There is a term which is being mentioned in the Kent Arora contract with that distributor dealer, wherein they say that we are going to supply Kent Arora machine to you for ₹1,000. However, if in case during the financial year 21-22, if in case you purchase from us more than 1,000 Kent Arora machines in the month of April 22, in the month of April 2020-22, we are going to assess the performance. You have purchased more than 1,000 machines from us for ₹1,000 each. In that case, we are going to give you 100 rupees discount. We are going to give you 100 rupees discount. And this discount is actually not recorded on the email. They have assessed the performance. There is no email recording on this. There is no contractual understanding on this. They have said that we are going to give you a discount, and normally GST authorities or we say it to be a secondary discount. Whether this secondary discount can be eligible for raising a credit note. So what I had earlier done was I raised the invoice for 1,000 rupees plus GST for 1,000 machines. Now I have reduced my price in the month of April for the preceding financial year machines which I supplied. I reduced my price. That was never recorded on email. That was never recorded on agreement. Whether for 100 rupees discount, which I have given to my distributor or dealers, 100 into 1,000 machines, 100 rupees per machine multiplied by 1,000, it becomes 1 lakh rupees discount. Whether on 1 lakh rupees, can I raise a credit note, GST credit note, and reduce my GST liability? Whether this is possible? I would like to have your learned views on this. Anyone would like to have their views on this? I had actually supplied 1,000 machines for 1,000 rupees in the month of April to March 2020-22. That is last financial year only. And in the month of April this month, I am reducing 100 rupees from each machine. Whether I can raise a credit note for this machine, this understanding was never recorded on the invoice or let us say agreement or on email. Whether this is possible? This is normally called yes one can. Sandeep sir, I would like to have your views on this, how you're saying this is possible. Any provision, raise commercial credit note, but that means when you are raising commercial credit note, you are not eligible for GST reduction. You have already paid GST basis 1,000 rupees on each machine. Now you are saying that for 100 rupees, I am going to raise a credit note, but not reduce my GST amount. GST cannot be reduced. This is what Sandeep sir is saying on this. Anyone else would like to have his or her views on this? So now, so there are no views on this. There is a GST circular by CBIC wherein they have stated that a secondary discount which was never recorded on any agreement or an invoice. In that case, the GST amount cannot be reduced, and this is what Sandeep sir has said, that a commercial credit note has to be raised. A credit note reducing the GST liability cannot be raised. However, when we go to contract law, or let us say when we go to section 15, both these state that even the secondary discount is eligible for reduction and GST amount can be reduced. How I am saying this? Because there is section 62-63 and section 62-63 again can be applied to this, wherein the payment terms can be amended, and as such the contract is going to be changed and the payment terms are going to be changed. The second thing, that as per section 15 of GST law, transaction value is price actually paid or payable. And when we go to section 2, consideration is again price paid or payable. Whether we can say that the payable amount, since the transaction is continuous supply, there is continuous supply which is being happening, the contract is still applicable. There are warranty services which last for 1-2 years. The contract is still subsisting. And for this reason, I can say that secondary discount, that 100 rupees discount which I have given on each machine, actually substitute the consideration even under the GST law, because it says the consideration which is being decided and when it can be said to be decided, before the initiation of a particular transaction, or it can be decided after the initiation of that transaction. In my view, that can be decided after the initiation of that transaction. The contract law also says that the GST law also uses the word payable, and payable can change anytime. Even though I have paid something, but that doesn't become payable, and payable can be changed. And the consideration definition also satisfies this case, wherein they say that consideration which is being decided to be paid or to be payable. So to be payable, again, I can classify that particular discount, wherein I can say that the consideration which was decided earlier was 900, and now the consideration, the earlier consideration was 1000 rupees, now the consideration is 900 rupees. And accordingly, I can justify this case that secondary discounts are also eligible for this case of reduction, and accordingly, I can reduce my GST liability. There are certain contractual law things also, constitutional law things also. I am not going into that because these are not regularly used, and we are actually running short of time because it's already 4:40. Now, there is a provision which says that the goods should be actually received by a recipient. The goods should be received by the recipient. There should be actual receipt of goods before they can avail any ITC. Now, let us say I have one client who is a distributor of Kia cars, Kia motor cars. They have a factory at Andhra Pradesh. They have sent out a particular car on 30th of the month. That car is received by me on 4th of the month. The car terms are like this, and this is normally the case of every motor industry, wherein they say that the manufacturer, that is Kia, is selling the car on X work basis. There is no risk, there is no responsibility of Kia during the transit. All the risk and rewards are transmitted to the recipient, that is dealer, who is sitting in Noida. From Andhra Pradesh, a car is being sent out on 30th, and that car is being received on 6th or 5th of the subsequent month by the car dealer here in Noida. Section 16(2) says the credit is available when there is receipt of the goods. Whether in this case, I would like to have your views again on this. Whether in this case, the credit can be availed in the month of April when the car are dispatched, 30th April when the car are dispatched, or the credit can be availed in the month of May when the car are actually received by the dealer who is sitting in Noida. Anyone would like to have his or her views in this, whether the credit would be available in the month of April or whether the credit would be available in the month of May. The car dispatched on 30th, car received on 5th or 6th of the May. Anyone would like to have his or her views on this? This is pretty clear transaction. This is the problem of most of the person, and this is, I mean, this is really a bigger problem, and for this reason, tricky one, Sandeep Sharma sir has said. Please explain. I would be explaining, sir. I would like to have others' views, or others may be sleeping. I am not aware of that.
No, people are not sleeping. Actually, they are listening, right? Because the thing is.
But I would like to have the chat box running. This is very simple transaction. Piyush,
already Piyush, Amit Agarwal, already they are.
Input can be availed in May only. Piyush ji, input can be availed in May only. So he is saying that the cards are actually received in 5th and 6th. And this is very normal transaction, in transit transaction. We are taking credit on receipt basis. So again, I would like to justify my views saying that the credit would be available in the month of April. The reason I would say is because of these. Explanation, when we go to that explanation which is given in that particular clause wherein they say that the person should have received goods or services, there is a beautiful explanation which is being captured in that provision itself. That explanation says that the goods are deemed to be received where the supplier has supplied those goods to recipient or any other person. When the supplier has supplied those goods to recipient or any other person on the direction of such registered person as in recipient, whether acting as an agent or otherwise. whether acting as an agent or otherwise of the recipient. So what does this entire line means? Now I am taking example. The transporter was appointed by recipient. First, we are going to discuss a simpler case. The transporter was appointed by recipient. The goods were supplied by the supplier to that recipient who was to that transporter who was acting on my behalf. If ownership transferred, in that case, only can take input in April. Yes, this is correct, and this was actually I was discussing. And how we are going to say this concretely is what my role here is, because the law doesn't say ownership. We have to go to Sales of Goods Act to justify this. The law says that I was taking the example that the supplier has given the goods to transporter, and transporter was actually acting on my behalf, as in I was appointed by the transporter, and I am going to pay the freight value. In that case, this explanation which is being provided in section 16(2)(b) is completely applicable. How the supplier has supplied the goods to any other person, that is transporter, who is acting on the direction of such registered person, that is recipient, because the transporter is acting on my direction. And whether he is acting as an agent or otherwise, in my case he is actually acting as an agent, because transporter works as an agent, and even otherwise he qualifies to be in this particular transaction. And for this reason, taking the help of this explanation, I can very well avail the input tax credit. Now let us say, moving forward, a case may come that the transporter is appointed by supplier and not by the recipient. The transporter is appointed by supplier, which happens normally in the motor industry. Let us say the transporter was actually appointed by Kia, and allied, as in the client which is sitting in Noida, doesn't have any role from the transporter. Even in that case, when I go to section 23 of the Sales of Goods Act, because the word delivery is not defined, I have taken a cue of the word delivery, because section 16(2)(b) explanation says when the delivery has happened to a person, in that case a person can claim the input tax credit. However, it further says that the transporter, the appointment of the transporter and all these things it says. However, when we go to Sales of Goods Act, it says the transporter need not be appointed by a buyer for the purpose of delivery. What I am trying to link is the word delivery is being used. When you are going to say delivery has happened, a normal person may say that delivery has happened only when the goods are received by me, or when the goods are received by a transporter who is appointed by me. However, in this case, what I am trying to say is that the transporter was appointed by Kia. Even in this case, the delivery is duly complied, because section 23 of Sales of Goods Act says that transporter need not be appointed by a buyer. Even in that case, the delivery is considered to be complete. There is no definition of delivery under GST law. And taking a cue from Sales of Goods Act, it says delivery of goods has completed when the goods are being given to a transporter, whether or not appointed by buyer, recipient. In a case where X work, where the risk and rewards are being transferred X factory. Even when the transporter was appointed, and there was a case when the transporter was appointed by Kia, in that case also the dealer who is sitting in Noida can avail the input tax credit, even though the transporter is of Kia, because the invoice says risk and rewards are transferred, the delivery has happened. The contract says the delivery happened, because normally bigger supplier, the dominant supplier, manufacturers doesn't take any responsibility once they have given the goods at the distribution point, and from there the delivery are happening across India. So they say that delivery has happened. However, they have appointed the transporter. So my concern may be the transporter has been appointed by them. How can I claim the input tax credit? Even in that case, Sales of Goods Act comes into play, and it says that the transporter need not be appointed by any person. And for this reason, this explanation is very beautifully captured this view, because it has said, the reason I read that explanation, even though it was not recorded in this slide, I was remembering that explanation. It has said that the goods are supplied to a person, whether acting as an agent or otherwise. So that otherwise means even though he is not working as my agent, even in that case, the delivery has duly happened and I am eligible to claim the input tax credit. And accordingly, I can claim the input tax credit in the month of April itself in case of X work transactions, where whether the delivery has happened to my transporter or his transporter. So this is a particular case, and this is the real life case which I am discussing. And this view is further fortified in the sense that the supplier Kia would be recording his transactions in GSTR 1 of the month of April, and accordingly this would be reflected in my GSTR to be of the month of April itself. So why to wait for May when there is this explanation which is being provided under the law? The risk has been transferred. Prakin single G, this is rightly said, ITC can be availed. The risk has been transferred to the recipient and accordingly. So it is very relevant that we go through the contractual terms before taking the ITC. This provision is normally being discussed across all the forums, that transfer of development rights is not liable to tax. I have this view supported by various other provisions of the law. General Clauses Act says the benefits which arise out of the land. The Registration Act says, the Land Acquisition Act says, every act says the benefits which arise out of the land. Transfer of development rights is the benefits which arise out of the land. Accordingly, land is equals to benefit which arise out of the land. It is actually land. So sale of land or sale of development rights is actually sale of land only, and this is being covered in the definition of land. And once it is covered in the definition of land, it becomes a subject matter of taxation of the state governments, because in entry number 49 of the 7th schedule of the Constitution, it is stated that tax on land, and land includes benefit to arise out of land, is subject matter of taxation of the state government. And accordingly, taking all these provisions, it can be definitely implied that transfer of development rights is not taxable under GST. However, we have different provisions under GST law. I mean, obviously there are no different provisions, there are different interpretations which are being done by the GST authorities. So I'm not discussing on that. There are various jurisprudence which is already available on the subject. Very relevant, I would be discussing Article 141 and 142 of the Constitution. The reason why this is relevant is because of the fact what happens is, I would be discussing with you guys on this. Let us say April 2018 to March 2019, that is financial year 18-19 refund has been applied by me in the month of, let us say, January 2020, let us say, I would say December 2021. The refund for financial year 18-19 has been applied by me in the month of December 2021. Whether in this case the refund would be considered to be out of the limitation period, because there is a 2-year limitation period for, let us say, taking a simple example, April 2018 refund has been filed by me in the month of December 2021. April 2018 refund in December 2021, whether this is covered within the limitation period which is being provided under GST law. The department is going to sanction this refund. I would like to have your views on this. Anyone? Anyone would like to have? Dio Nandan Kumarji, you have mentioned your membership number. I would like to have your views on this, sir. So under GST law, there are no views on this. However, very relevant transaction. and this can cover whole lot of period from March 2018 to February, let us say till the time pandemic lasted. So in this particular case, April 2018 refund, 2 years limitation period completes in the month of March 2000, April, I would say April 2020. So 2 years completes on April 2020. 2 years limitation period, section 54 of GST Act says, for the April 2018 refund can be applied till April 2020. 2020, because 2018 adds now adding 2 years and it becomes 2020. And in 2020 there was pandemic. Supreme Court, in exercise of its power under Article 141 and 142, stated that when the period of any limitation, when the period of filing of any application, suit, application, proceedings, initiation of any proceedings falls within the period of April 2020, that is the period when pandemic started, till February 2022, that period has to be excluded from limitation period. And the limitation period for such cases would expire in the month of 45 days from February 2022. As such, the limitation period expired on 15th April 2022 for the refund application pertaining to April 2018. 2 years expired in April 2020. However, Supreme Court, in exercise of Article 141 and 142, extended it to April 2022. This is the period wherein we are sitting as of now. And this was not accepted by GST authorities, as in the GST authorities haven't provided relief for delayed filing of application. CBIC also came up with a circular wherein they stated that limitation period, as in the benefit of this particular case, so moto extension of limitation period is not going to apply in case of refund proceedings. However, recently one judgment of I would say various judgments of one Madras High Court, Calcutta High Court, now Bombay High Court also have stated that even in case of refund proceedings, the limitation period which is being provided by Supreme Court by this order is going to apply, and accordingly the limitation period was revived when, in a case for April 2018, I filed the application in December 2021. I can get the relief out of this judgment of Supreme Court and various judgment of High Courts. I am also arguing one case in Allahabad High Court on this subject matter. So let's see how the proceedings happens in that case. And this can cover whole lot of period, 2 years period. Pandemic lasted for 2 years, and 2 years limit extension. That means extension of limitation period of 2 years. So for April 2018, the limitation expired in April 2020, and I filed a refund application in December 2021, and I can get the relief. There is again very important thing which I would like to discuss here is, normally we see that there are various transactions which happen in business entities, like transferring of input tax credit and various things. Nothing to be said on a forum which is getting recorded here. And in that case, what they have done is, normally we see that there are GST provisions, there is nothing happening. GST provisions are there are penalty which is being provided under GST law, that is sufficient. We are well aware of that. However, in 2021, what government did was, in case of fraudulent purchase of those invoices, wherein a person purchases, as in purchases the invoices, not purchases the goods or services. He purchases the invoices, he claims the input tax credit, he exports the goods, and the exports is, let us say, there is actually not, let us say there is a bottle getting exported for, let us say, 1 lakh rupees. The customs authorities have cleared that export. What that person has got is, he has purchased the invoices, he has the input tax credit of 1 lakh rupees. What he has done is, on a export of rupees 1000 rupees bottle he has got, and the value was shown to be, let us say, 10 lakh rupees, 15 lakh rupees, and this normally happens. This is real example which I'm giving, is the values are inflated so that the refund is also inflated. The refund what that person got is, he exported certain goods. The goods were actually not of much value. However, he inflated the value, got that exported through by clearance through customs authorities. And in a way, what he did was, he filed the refund claim shipping bill with payment of IGST. He got 1 lakh rupees cash. He got 1 lakh rupees cash of input tax credit of the invoices which he purchased, of not the goods he purchased, of the invoices which he purchased. Normally, our view is that GST law is not going to provide, doesn't provide much of the penalty, and accordingly, these cases are also settled. However, in Finance Act 2020-21, they amended the Customs Act, wherein they stated that, and they have given very wide powers to customs authorities, wherein they have stated that, please read third number point, penalty up to 5 times of the amount of refund in case any person has obtained any invoice by fraud, collusion to utilize input tax credit for discharging any duty or tax on goods under claim of refund of any duty or tax. So what this seeks to cover is those cases where IGST refund was being obtained. They have said that 5 times the amount of penalty can be attracted under the customs law for these cases. So very relevant to note that if in case a person is purchasing an invoice, there is a provision under customs law which is being introduced by Finance Act 2021 to introduce such penalty. I think there are various other provisions also, and since we are running short of time, I would like to now have the queries rather than keep discussing on these provisions, because we are having next session of Rohit sir, who is also going to take certain GST litigations. So over to Sandeep sir, and I would like to have any queries from members. Hope you liked this session. We were actually able to cover only 4-5 case studies, but there are hell lot of case studies on this. Yes.
Shivashish, sorry to interrupt. I think it was going very fine, right? And very interesting cases, what you are explaining here. But one thing I just wanted to know from you. You have very well explained the interlinking of GST law with other acts like Contract Act and Custom Act and all, right? I think someone is unmute. I'll request all of you to please.
Manji requested to. Yes, he is now on mute.
So the thing is, yes, we understood that there is an interplay of GST law with other law. Like in your first example, it is with RBI, second with contract, then custom and all. So the major question is how to proceed with GST. See, the thing is, if I tell you, so even if newspaper you have seen so many news that directors are getting notices for providing guarantee to the company, right, under GST Act. So are the GST officers are going to accept the fact that yes, RBI is having this law or RBI is having this master circular, so we should not issue the notices, or this interplay of law is only going to settle in the courts only, right? What should a client do, or what should we advise to the client being a professional? So should we go to the court, or we should try to advise, try to
settle the cases at the adjudication forums also. I understood your point, sir. So as far as Sales of Goods Act, Section 2B was concerned,
yeah,
I think that can be, to my understanding, that have been accepted in my cases by various authorities, because the explanation says so. And that is the view of the taxman also, VS Date and all these experts. I have taken the views of that experts also. And that is pretty much clear explanation. At least in that case, to my understanding, the cases should get settled at the adjudication level. However, in a case where the personal guarantee thing is involved, normally, obviously, at least we can make the submissions before the authorities that these are the provisions. Normally, what happens is we are actually not aware of these provisions which are being provided under the other
Correct.
laws,
Correct.
and at least we can make the submissions. And what happens is, in that case, there the chances of relief get increased. And in any case, sir, the GST authorities doesn't listen of their superior officers, or let us say doesn't listen to anyone. And in that case, obviously, we have to settle those cases at the court level, that is tribunal level. In my view, these cases doesn't require one to go to high court, because these relief are being provided at the C-state level earlier also. So in that case, my suggestion is at least 2 appeals, that is first commissioner appeal level and second tribunal appeal level. One should be open to dispute all these things at least before the tribunal forum. And in that case, these disputes can be settled. If in case the GST authorities doesn't accept, normally they are not going to accept in case of personal guarantees, what I have seen. But yes, it is always better that we support our client to the best, and at least we can make the submissions, and we can support the justice dispensation system in the tribunal also, as in when the tribunal is going to see our submission, the tribunal view is also going to tilt in our favor, just because we have introduced various provisions and not simply recorded the provision of GST law. So this is my view on this, sir.
Thank you, Shivashish ji. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
What I understood, what I have listened, the presentation was going very fine, but due to short of time, we are not able to listen to you completely. But definitely, we are going to disturb you again, right? And I'll request you to please share this presentation for the benefit of our members as well. This presentation must have the complete case studies, no?
Yes, complete case studies.
Yeah, so I think that will be good for all our listener, all participants, right? And now we have Advocate Rohit Arora ji with us. Before moving to Advocate Rohit Arora ji, we have our founder convener Dr. C.A. Durgadas ji present with us. Sir, so on behalf of History Study Circle, I would like to welcome him. I think he's on a mute or something. Now we have a panelist again, C.A. Manmohan Sharma ji. Sharma ji, senior chartered accountant with a very good knowledge on indirect taxation. Maybe so anyway, we should move further. जैसे ही open करेंगे, then we'll talk to them as well. Since time is getting short, and I'm also very eager to listen to Advocate Rohit Arora ji, and especially about the situation or the cases he's dealing in the Rudrapur area. And it was very kind to him that he has joined us for our webinar from Rudrapur. Thank you so much, Rohit ji, for joining today. And it's over to you, Rohit ji. Please start your deliberation. Over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep ji. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yeah, you are audible.
Very good evening to all the attendees in the event. I'm Rohit Arora, as Sandeep sir has very well. I'm grateful to him for the kind introduction, and thank you for my friend Shivashish for having me here. So I'll share the PPT with the attendees. Give me a minute, please.
It's visible.
Great. So the topic which has been allotted to me is emerging litigations under the GST law. Now, before moving to the topic and getting into the case laws or the recent judgments, the only first question which I want to very candidly ask to all the attendees is whether everyone is happy with the GST, how it is being applied by the GST authorities, whether everyone is happy with the state officers who are implementing the e-way bill provisions, the GST registrations issue. Just a very candid question.
Rohit ji, if you ask me frankly, that I'll tell you the frank answer that the expectation, what we are expecting from GST is not the same, right? Earlier, it was very advertised throughout the implementation of GST. It's a one nation, one tax, and all right, and blah blah. But if you see the situation, it is actually not a one nation, one tax. It's a multi-state, multi-tax, right? Because nowadays each and every state is issuing his or sorry, their notification circulars and everything. In UP, you have other notification circulars. In Kerala, you have something different. In Maharashtra, you have something different.
Yes.
Apart from that, the way they have just issued circular notices and all, even at a central level, right? And the so, वो जो सब कहते हैं ना, it's a truly speaking, the now GST have a three type of laws, right? One, what we are reading in the books and all, what is the Bear Act and all.
Yes.
Second is the all notifications and circulars, what is going on. Third is the what the system is doing. System has another different kind of law, right?
Yes.
Sometimes it is there in law, but not in the system, right?
Very
It is
correct.
a very, it's a big challenge for any businessman or any tax practitioner to do those. But yes, I would certainly say that GST is still in infant stage. It's not matured enough as compared to income tax or any other law. And we expect that it should have some maturity after 2 or 3 years down the line, and things will going to settle as soon as possible. And I think it will be for the betterment of the society or business
Very correct.
perspective.
Very correct.
Yeah, please.
So एक बहुत candid observation देता हूँ. I'll speak in bilingual language, English, Hindi दोनों, so that we are able to cover all the attendees. There was a book with the name Naya Kanun. I'd suggest everyone to read that.
Okay.
So in that book, I guess that's written by Munshi Premchand ki kitab hai. Naya Kanun is the book wherein the author has very clearly and very in a very simple language has explained that whenever a new kanun or whenever a new law is introduced, it pertains to somewhere in the era when independence was there. However, it simply is the crux of that book was that whenever a new kanun is brought or is bring into light, it brings certain issues with it. So now this is what GST law did to us. Now, I come from a arena wherein I am majorly into the litigations. I'm rushing into the courts to assess the clients where the GST issues is prevailing or the commercial issues parallel to what GST is doing is prevailing. The topic is emerging litigations under GST law. I'll discuss certain case laws wherein the Honorable High Courts have discussed the issues very clearly and have even passed strictures against the government, whereby the High Courts have noted that the actions done by the officer under the GST law are very arbitrary or high-handed. This is the very first case law. I am sure that most of the attendees would have gone through these recent judgments. These are the recent judgments which I'll present before the attendees. The very first is the Manvish Traders Private Limited versus State of Gujarat, wherein what happened was that a show cause notice was issued by the state by the department regarding the cancellation of a GST registration. And the points or the issue was there was no reason mentioned in the show cause notice. And I'm very sure many of the attendees who are into practice would be getting these show cause notices in regard to their clients on a day-to-day basis. What happened, I'll exhibit the order for the ease of reference for the members. This was the order, which was issued by the GST department. It was, nothing in this regard. It was the only reason which was stated by the department was, I'll zoom it a bit. This was the reason. Whereas on the basis of the information which has come to my notice, it appears that your registration is liable to be cancelled for the following reasons. The only one reason is in case registration has been obtained by means of fraud, willful misstatements, or suppression of facts, you are hereby directed to furnish a reply to the notice within 7 working days, or you are hereby or will proceed ex parte. Now, what the Gujarat High Court in the judgment did, they immediately quashed the notice. See, the GST registration was restored, and the department was obviously granted a right that in case if they have any other point, they can proceed against the SSC, provided as per the law. In accordance with the law is the major and the very important thing which we have to understand. Now, what I am trying to point out here is that in these type of cases wherein the department officer issues a show cause notices, issued a show cause notice, even in fact, if you appeal or you even file a revocation of GST cancellation, then even in that case, we would see that the reasons given by the officers are very vague. They don't understand the submissions given by you. They even if you present the judgments of honorable of various other high courts, or even of their own high court, they'll not follow the judicial discipline, whereby they which is actually as per the law, they have to understand, and they have to, even if they are not agreeing with the judgment, they have to very respectfully distinguish the judgment, which is not being done by the officers at the moment. This is the current scenario which is being done in the case of registration. Another case wherein this was the another case of Gujarat High Court itself, Shah Industries was a state of Gujarat. Herein again, what happened? The registration was the notice for GST registration cancellation was issued, and the reason was that I'll exhibit the order again. This was the order. This was the notice. It says, whereas on the basis of the information which has come to my notice, it appears that your registration is liable to be cancelled for the following reasons. And the only reason is, as per negative spot visit report submitted by STI and attached Panchnama regarding spot visit. Nothing else. You are hereby directed to furnish a reply. And even in case you submit a reply, they'll suspend it or they'll not agree with it. This is the simple thing which the department is doing at the moment. That's why that's why the SSCs are forced to go to High Court and present their case for an issue which is absolutely incorrect. The Gujarat High Court in one of the judgment itself said that if these type of show cause notices are being issued, then in that case it's very difficult for a person to do its business. Even in one of the video which got viral, the Gujarat High Court was seen saying that it's very easy to go to moon rather than understanding the GST law. So this is something which is being happening at the moment, and which, as per me, when we see the issues being prevailing in the industry, we are actually very unhappy seeing the steps being taken by the department. However, this is how it is being done, and we are hopeful that the department might understand with the like how the law has to be done, or how the law has to be implemented. Now, the third, it's also again on the registration issue, wherein again a big show cause notice was issued by the department. The SSC moved to the High Court. The registration issue was again resolved by the High Court, and this was again Gujarat High Court. We would understand that Gujarat High Court is one of the High Court in India which is actually dealing, and we actually get to see a good number of judgments from Gujarat High Court. Also, other High Courts are doing very well, and we have most respect to all the High Courts. Now, the registration issue, there are a couple of more judgments on the registration issues, and we get to see a number of judgments on registration as well as on other issues, wherein the show cause notices itself issued by the department are incorrect, or they are based on such facts which are either irrelevant or they are invalid. Now, what is the reason that I'm hampering on the notices issue? Because everyone would agree with me that show cause notices is not something which is very simple or very unimportant, because an adjudication process is started by issuing a show cause notice. Show cause notices forms the bedrock of any adjudication process. In any case, if the show cause notice or the notice or any intimation by the department itself invalid or vague, then in that case, the whole adjudication process suffers the burden of that. recently also one of the High Court, I'm sure that's Allahabad High Court, in a case while dealing with the intimation sent under section 74, whereby DRC 01A had to be issued, which is actually an intimation under the GST law. The GST department issued the show cause notice itself under DRC 01A and treated it as an intimation letter, which cannot be done. And the High Court rightly held that the department made an error while issuing the show cause notice. While issuing the intimation, they have issued illegally or incorrectly the show cause notice itself. There's the procedure under the GST law which prescribes that an intimation has to be sent first, and after that, after 30 days, a time limit of 30 days is given, I guess. Then after that, if the person does not comply with that, then a show cause notice has to be issued. One of the in the recent past, and also in the current scenario, which we are also dealing with certain other cases, wherein what is happening is that the department is sending a notice. This is happening in Uttarakhand at least. I'm sorry that I'm not in a position to understand how the position is getting into other states, but for the moment, if we talk about Uttarakhand, we were dealing with a case wherein the department, what they did, they issued a letter that was not even a show cause notice, that was not even an intimation. They issued a letter on their letterhead and sent that to the SSE, saying that the X name of the recipient. So the notice was issued to the SSE saying that one of your supplier has shown this, has made you a supply of rupees this and this amount, wherein the ITC of rupees 2 crore something is the amount of GST which had to be charged and paid to us. But because that supplier is now vanished and we are not able to trace him, you are hereby liable to pay it. And this was sent through a letter, not even an intimation, not even a show cause notice. And I'm sure this is a condition which under section 16 is a major issue which is prevailing in the whole country, wherein the supplier is absconding and the person to whom the goods were supplied is bearing the burden of that, or are being harassed by the department because of the simple reason that the department is saying that you are liable to pay it because the other person who supplied the goods to you is absconding. I'll share the judgment of the Honorable Uttarakhand High Court, wherein our stand was same. We challenged the very intimation or the letter which whatever the department was saying to that, or was construing that letter. We challenged that letter. The Honorable High Court was pleased to held that the department cannot issue such kind of notices, and whatever could be done has to be done strictly as per in accordance with law and as per section 73 or 74. I'll share the judgment with you for everyone's ease of convenience. This was the case. I'll share the operative part. So the department here said that we challenged the intimation, and we said that it's not even an intimation, it's a mere letter. The department said that this is the operative part. This. But since the learned counsel of the respondent is the department itself, it says based on the instructions which has been received by him from his clients, has made a statement that in fact, in pursuance to the demand letters which have been put up to challenge, in fact, it's not an actual action of recovery which is being contemplated or to be taken against the petitioner. Rather, it is an only intimation of demand, and hence there is no imminent threat which is being faced by the petitioner of the recovery of amount, which has reflected in the impugned order. The High Court was pleased to held that, taking those statements on record, this writ petition is closed, with liberty left open to the respondents that if at all the respondents, that the GST department, intend to take any action for the purpose of recovery of input tax credit, they would proceed exclusively in accordance with law and particularly in accordance with the procedure provided under section 73 or 74 of the Act, read with rules. Now, this judgment clearly stated that anything which the GST department wants to do in regard to these kinds of scenarios, they have to strictly follow the procedure. And that has been prescribed very well under the law. the intimations or the mere demand letters which the department is doing at the moment has to be restrained, and the department has to, the practice adopted by the department has to depreciate it. This was the major concern, and this is running parallel to the concept that a notice forms the bedrock of an adjudication process, because if at all an SSC receives these kind of demand letters and they reply to these letters, and then the replies and the notices keeps on going in and out of the GST department and the SSC, then at the end of the day the department would absolutely issue a show cause notice, and show cause notice under section 73 or 74, and then in that case obviously the adjudication process would start. But the department, we can put a full stop to the department on these kind of practices whereby the demand letters under no section and which holds no authority under the law are being issued. So this was something which was in regard to the show cause notices, in regard to registration, as well as the input tax credit that everyone is dealing with at the moment. We are also dealing with certain issues, and I'm sure most of the attendees would agree with me that in some cases what is being done by the GST department is that they are visiting the premises of the SSCs, and by any chance, if they find that the address of or if the location or the premise of the SSC is being not found, or it's being logged, or it's temporarily closed, then in that case they are issuing the show cause notices for cancellation of registration, which in my opinion it's very incorrect, because it's very well understood that in the latest past, not very we have been dealing with a pandemic. And in that case, many of the businesses have been temporarily closed for various N reasons. In fact, in one of the matters, I was dealing with a situation wherein my client, who was an exporter, he performed his export transaction. The very first transaction he exported, he bought a good. So for example, if I state in an example manner, he bought rupees 100, the product of rupees 100 in India in the domestic manner. He exported those 100, those goods of 100 rupees which he have bought to some other country, and the whole transaction was nil, because he bought 100 products, he sold those 100 products in an export manner, and the stocks went zero. So he applied for the refund to the department because it was a zero rated supply and there was a refund mechanism available to him. He applied for the unutilized input tax credit refund. The department visited the premises of the SSC and found that there's no stock lying there. And the reason was very simple, because whatever the stocks were exported. He gave his reply to the department, and the same reply was given. The department did not appreciate the fact. All the documents in regard to these were given to the department, but the department did not accept it. The GST. And what was interesting to understand was that the premises were visited because of the refund application. The department thought that the refunds are being were filed because of some bogus by some bogus entities. They went there, they found that the premise is having no stock at the moment. They immediately issued us a cancellation of show cause. Cancellation of GST registration as show cause notices was given to us. We presented the case to the department. We presented everything. We presented that the goods, the output has been done, and we have the custom documents available with us. We have the inputs, because the 100 quantities of goods which were bought in the domestic supply were bought on the basis of tax invoices and e-way bills, and those are very valid documents. The department at the end, in the appellate mechanism, accepted our view and said that yes, you were correct, that there's no bogus entity existing here, and the simple issue is that the premise was found on that there was no stock, because of the simple reason that we were stating from the very inception, but that happened only in the appellate mechanism and not before the GST officers, which actually were dealing with the issue and who actually issued as the show cause notice for adjudication. So this is something which is actually becoming a regular issue for everyone in the industry, and everyone is being harassed by someone in some another manner by the department. Now, the another topic which is very important to understand, and I'm sure that most of the attendees would also be dealing with these issues as well, and they would be seeing these issues going around in the trade and industry, is of e-way bill. Now, recently, the Honorable Supreme Court in Satyam Shivam judgment has very clearly held that if there is no intention to evade the tax, then in that case, the penalty would have not been levied. And in fact, that's a landmark judgment, and which is very well appreciated by the trade and industry, because the department officers were also charged with the cost in that matter, because of the manner in which the process or the adjudication process was handled by the department in that case. Now, in the case, in this present case, Podar and Podar Industries of Tirupura High Court, the issue was that the e-way bill was found expired. The GST department proceeded on the said premise that the e-way bill is expired, and hence the procedure under section 129 would start. And in that case, obviously, earlier before the amendment, 100% tax and 100% penalty was to be charged. Now, after the amendment, it's 200% of penalty and no tax amount. However, the tax amount, whatever is being charged is absolutely incorrect, because of the simple reason that if an e-way bill has been expired by a mere delay of 4 hours or 5 hours or 7 hours, even in that case, if the bona fideness is being proved by the SSE, then in that case, we are of the opinion that the department at the maximum, what they can do is they can levy a penalty under section 122. That's maximum of 10,000. Also, what they could do is, if not this, they can maximum, what they can levy is a penalty of rupees 25,000. Nothing else. And as per section 126 of the GST law, it's very clear that the department officers have to decide the quantum of penalty depending upon the case-to-case basis. This is something which is very important, and the recent issues which we are dealing with is that the e-way bill got expired by certain hours, and it could be of any reason. It could be either the technical glitch, or the glitch in the vehicle. It could be either the jam or congestion with the vehicle would face. Earlier in the recent 2 years, we were dealing with farmers' protests all over the country. In that case, the farmers' protest could be a reason through which the jam or the congestion happened on the roads. And for that purposes, if the e-way bill got expired, which is out of the power, or out of the which is beyond the power of an SSE to rectify it or to extend it due to any reason, it could be either not under the reception of internet coverage or anything. Then in that case, can an SSE be charged with 100% tax and 100% penalty kind of thing, or 100 or 200% of penalty? The answer is, in a simple language and in a very folded manner, is no. The answer is to substantiate it, we clearly say that the department has the right to charge penalty from us. What they are doing is they are collecting the 100% tax and penalty amount, which could not be done by them, because of the simple fact that penalty itself means that there's a mens rea involved, and in the present cases, there is no mens rea involved on the part of SSEs or the transporter or another person, because for mens rea there has to be some intention to evade the tax, which the Honorable Supreme Court very well in the judgment of Satyam Shivam clearly stated that when there's no intention to evade the tax, on what basis the SSEs are being harassed. In the case of Podar and Podar Industries, the Tirupura High Court held the same. Now, Ashok Kumar Sureka was Assistant Commissioner State Tax of Calcutta High Court. Again, in this judgment, what happened was it came from Calcutta High Court, and in this case, the Honorable Calcutta High Court relied upon Satyam Shivam papers case of Supreme Court, and in this case also the expiry of e-way bill was the issue, wherein the court itself said that the e-way bill, the expiry of e-way bill was not deliberate and was not willful. It was only because of the simple reason that the vehicle got breakdown and there was no intention to evade any kind of tax. And the High Court appreciated the submissions of the SSE, and the demand order was cancelled. So, ballparkly, my intention to discuss these kinds of judgments in a very crux manner. I'm sorry, I'm not having very detailed presentation so as to present more cases. However, my only intention to be before the attendees of this session was to bring certain issues wherein the SSEs or the trade and industry are seeing that and are dealing with those issues. I would be very happy if any of the attendees have any kind of issues or any kind of doubt in regard to the GST issues or under the GST law, which they are feeling and they want to discuss it at the moment, we would be very happy to discuss it for the benefit of the attendees themselves. Anyone having any question in regard to the litigations or any kind of discussion which they want to pursue with in regard to the above topic?
Rohit, I think it's going very fine, right? And hello.
Yes, sir.
It's going very fine, Rohit, and I think आपको आगे बढ़ते रहना चाहिए. I'm thoroughly enjoying your thesis studies and all, right? And
very well, sir.
I must congratulate you. You have selected a very good judgment. Very relevant topic.
Thank you, sir. So my whole contention to present these judgments was to present the GST, the issues which are being seen or being under or being whatever because I'm sure the attendees in the day-to-day practice, they are seeing these cases. They are seeing these that the e-way bill of one of their clients is being expired and the GST department is harassing them. They are seeing that one of the client was not the shop or the premise was not open and the GST department has cancelled or have issued a show cause notice for cancellation. One of the client would have got a notice from the department saying that one of the supplier has absconded and the input tax credit in that regard has to be submitted by them. So these are certain issues which are prevailing in the trade and industry at the moment, and we are hopeful that the department would understand that these issues are something which are actually not very helpful for the trade industry, because and rather they are converting into an action of harassment. Parallelly, what we are as a traded industry have seen that it's 5 years down the line since the GST law came into inception, and from July 2017 till April 2022, it's not that the litigation under GST has stopped for a single minute. Right from July 17, we were dealing. So if we present the timeline of the litigations that happened under the GST law, in July 2017, we started with the litigations of transitional credit. There were issues under the portal. There were issues on the transitional forms. There were either the SSCs were not in the position to file the forms online. Then the high courts intervened and held that the manual forms could be filed. The transitional forms era, when the transitional forms litigations were being faded away, then another issue came in that was in April 2018. The GST, the e-way bill provisions came into the picture. Then every state, like Sir said, every state had their own discretion to implement the e-way bill provisions. Every state had their own discretion, and many of the states said that we would exempt 50,000 rupees of amount for e-way bill. Some said that we would not comply with that. Now, this is something, and this is absolutely very important to understand, that the concept of mutual or the parallel understanding between the center and the state, it's very important under the GST law, which is also called I'm not getting the term. So though, however, what is to be understood is that it's cooperative federalism. Now, what is being done is that the department, and many a times what we see is that one of the state is doing such. So if you see, for example, Kerala state has issued a circular whereby they have provided the guidelines, whereby in regard to the verification of premises, or they have also provided a guideline in regard to the audit, how the audit under GST would proceed. Now, these guidelines have been issued by Kerala state. If you're dealing with such case in Uttarakhand, and there's an audit being done by the department in Uttarakhand for your client, or in Delhi for an example, and in that case you present the guidelines of the Kerala state department and say that, boss, see, this is the guidelines which Kerala state has applied, and obviously because these come from under the umbrella of GST law of the country, they would strictly deny, saying that, boss, it pertains to Kerala, we won't apply it. That's correct on their point, but that can be considered as a persuasive value indeed. Now, as I was explaining the timeline, we in the inception of GST law, which we dealt with the transitional provisions. After a while, because GST was a new law, the advanced rulings mechanism came into picture. There were good number of advanced rulings issued by the which were applied by the taxpayers, and we got a good number of judgments in advanced rulings as well. But we also saw that some of the advanced rulings were not at all appreciated by the trade and industry, because those were certainly based on certain facts, and there were certain errors, and obviously that went into appellate advanced rulings. And in fact, if the appellate advanced rulings were not correct, people or the SSEs went to High Court in regard to that. So advanced rulings are currently like it's an ongoing process. The advanced rulings are being pursued at the moment as well. Now, when advanced rulings procedures went away, then because it was almost 2 years down the line, then the GST law was into the picture. Then the department was started issuing notices such as under section 16. Then e-way bill mechanism was into the picture. There were issues under the e-way bill. Then after that, when these were going around, the audit process under the GST law started. A lot of SSEs started getting notices from the GST department on the basis of audit. And in fact, what is very pertinent to understand is that during the audit process, in fact, one of the Honorable High Court also stated that any amount deposited under the process of audit should not be done. So because this was being seen by the High Court that the department at the time of doing the audit, what they used to do is they found certain errors in your business. They'll immediately point it out that, sir, these are the points wherein the tax liability is accruing in your name and you have to pay that. They would not issue they were not issuing the notices or show cause notices as such required for that process. What they were actually asking the SSEs were that these amounts of tax, or which they were alleging it to be a tax, that those amounts should be deposited through DRC 03, that's voluntary payment. And they were doing that. The High Court said that this could not be done because this is absolutely incorrect. And yes, this is incorrect because of the simple fact that when you deposit something involuntarily, that you cannot litigate it. Obviously, you can, after a point of time, or on the next day, you can say that it was under protest and it was under coercion by the department. You can do that, but obviously you have paid that and you have to litigate it for that. You have to litigate for that moment again for that amount. So yes, after the audits were being conducted, and in fact it's being conducted at the moment as well, there were notices. Then in regard to refunds, we are dealing with refunds provisions wherein the GST department, in fact my friend Shivashish very rightly pointed out that when the COVID came into picture, then the Honorable Supreme Court, as per the recent order, which is the latest date of the Honorable Supreme Court's order, that's 10th of January 2022, has very, very clearly laid down that the time limitations extended beginning from 15th of March 2020 till 28th of February 2022 would be excluded for calculating the limitation period under the special laws as well as the general laws. Now, special law itself means that the GST law or any other law for the time being are covered under those terms. And what was amazing to understand was that the GST department, through a circular of 2019, said that the refunds were not being covered under that, or they did not even mention it, I guess. Then in that case, the Honorable Madras High Court, the Allahabad High Court intervened and said that refund applications which were filed the time limit of which were expiring between these two dates are covered and are to be entertained by the GST department. In fact, we are dealing with a similar case at the moment, and we are planning it to get it adjudicated. So these are something issues which are being pursued, by the SSEs because of the technical issues the department is not understanding. So my opinion in that regard is, I may sound very harsh. My presentation would be very like many of the attendees. I'm sorry if my opinion in the regard to the GST department would have been certainly harsh at some point of time. But that's something because you get to understand it when the clients come to us and when they are in the position that they are being harassed at a maximum level of what the department could do. So we get that point of time, but that's all with my respect. These are all are my respectful submissions to the department, and those are without prejudice to anything and everyone. So Sandeep ji, that is what my summations were, and that was my intention to cover up in the present PPT. I would be very happy if any of the attendees would have any questions in regard to the discussion.
Thank you, Rohit ji. I have so many questions, right? And truly speaking, I thoroughly enjoy your presentation as well. Rohit ji, it would be very good for the all audience and for me as well if you suggest some good cases on input tax credit, right? Because nowadays it is happening that client or the business has already paid to the suppliers, right? But due to some reason, they have suppliers have either filed wrong returns, or maybe they have not filed their return, their account has been suspended and all, right? And all type of notices are coming to that person who has already paid for that, right? So, do you have any such kind of case laws and all? What's going on and all? If you could suggest one or two.
In this regard, I would present one of the judgment which I shared. That's Narula Menthols versus Union of India, Uttarakhand High Court. In this case, which I presented, the demand letters were issued by the department on the basis that the other person who has supplied the goods to us is absconding, and hence the recipient has to pay the demand. Second is DY Bittel case of Madras High Court, which was very well circulated into the trade and industry at that point of time. That pertains to somewhere December of 2019. I'll share the judgment if in case that would be convenient. Also, there are certain other judgments. There's Arise Industries case of Delhi High Court, which was again that pertains to the VAT regime. However, Delhi High Court in this case, while discussing the provision of section of the Delhi VAT Act, very well held that in these kind of provision wherein the supplier has absconded and the input tax credit pertaining to the recipient is being challenged or is being questioned by the department on the basis that the person who has supplied is not found, then in that case this could not be done, and that in that judgment the validity of that very section was challenged, and this was upheld by the Honorable Supreme Court. That's Arise India case. So these are certain judgments which would be, and I'm very sure that in the coming months, the Honorable High Court, in fact, that's Section 16 validity, the pertinent point under Section 16 is challenged before many high courts, and then in the recent past, application was filed before the Honorable Supreme Court, wherein the Union of India has requested the Honorable Supreme Court, so asking the Honorable Supreme Court that all these petitions before all the high courts in India are jointly presented before the Supreme Court, and so that the Supreme Court can decide it. However, the Supreme Court was pleased to held that they are not willing to do that, join all the petitions, because of the very simple fact that the Supreme Court said that they want to understand the jurisprudence from every high court in this regard.
But I think it is the need of the hour that Supreme Court should give some verdict on this type of cases.
Sir, I'm sorry, I'm not able to get you.
I think now it's audible.
Yes, please.
I think now it is the need of the hour that Supreme Court must have give some judgment of this input tax credit issues, right?
Indeed,
because things are going very it's a totally chaos situation, right? If you see the आप अगर 2017 की बात कर रहे थे तो 2017 and 18 में that अगर आपने if you decide that period from 1st July to 31st March, right? So many things were going on. Portals were not working. Changes were so made so instantly. Law were different, so clarification were made, and you are giving notices for that period. Even people doesn't know कि अच्छा even so many times आपने ट्रांसपेरेंसी क्रेडिट ली कभी नहीं ली मतलब so many things. It was a chaos, and for that reason you are giving a notice to
right, very correct, very correct.
And you are going for an audit or assessment type of things for the person, then it's something one should understand or think of it, right? Apart from that, two new things are going on, right? I would like to have your views on that. First, recently in Delhi NCR area, I am not going to take the name of the state, but my client come to me and then he show me, boss, notice आया हुआ है, what to do? I'm like, I didn't get your notice in any portal. I used to, my team used to verify your portal on a regular basis. There was no notice. Na sir, आया हुआ है. How has it come? Sir, I got a notice from WhatsApp. No WhatsApp means, मतलब हाँ वहाँ के officer से my number is in that GST registration. No, they have given me notice in WhatsApp.
Very correct.
First.
Now, in these kind of cases, what is being happening is, this is very correct, sir. The kind of practices the GST department is handling at the moment is they're issuing the notices either in the form of WhatsApp, or what they are doing is they are calling your clients in their offices and they're handing over the notices by hand to them and taking a receiving of that.
Correct.
Now, there's a very good judgment on this. Akash Garg versus state of something, and this of Madhya Pradesh High Court, wherein, and it pertains to the GST law, wherein the High Court itself has held that when the GST portal, it has been designed by the government for this very particular purpose, in that case, no communication should be done in any other form.
Okay.
And it's a very good judgment. And in fact, one of the section under the GST law itself says that GST portal, I'm not sure what the section is though there's a particular section which says that GST portal is a portal which has been designed by this government to communicate and which is meant for all the communications. You can use that section and the judgment of Akash Garg so as to substantiate your case on the point that the notice itself is invalid when it's being issued on WhatsApp.
Yeah, things are second. I got another notice right from client, and the interesting part of that notice was nothing was mentioned there from which department, which ward, which circle they have issued the notice. I was totally clueless, and I'm just trying to find out. Reason was whatever the information they are trying to take from our side, and it was not feasible in portal to upload each and every document due to portal restriction because they have their own set of rules. So I was just trying to find out, boss, which was the circle and all, so that I can make a hard copy of a bunch of those documents. I'll send it back to them. But it was very tough. And then I come to know yes, for the central region, if your jurisdiction is in a central ward, they won't give you any description of the address of the jurisdiction from where you are getting notices.
Okay.
Right. So it was also a very peculiar type of thing which is happening.
You can challenge that. You can challenge that because that is something out of the jurisdiction. And obviously, as I said, show cause notices has to be very clear. It cannot be based on surmises and the conjectures of the department. It cannot be based on certain assumptions, and it cannot be vague. The signatory, it's a very well settled law that the signature of the person who is signing that notice and the authority under which authority is doing that has to be clearly mentioned.
Authority was clear, but it was not there from which range or which circle. And it's very tough. For the portal, you have limitations, right? You cannot document each and every upload each and every document, right? They have their there are issues there, right? But certainly, yes, we are getting this type of notices, so we don't have much to do here. Apart from that, see, if you see, things are going on. Rohit ji, a new thing is going to come. A new thing is coming up that a single SSC is getting notices from both the jurisdiction, whether it's a central jurisdiction or the state jurisdiction, right? Even if they have a specific jurisdiction mentioned in that portal and all, that is blinking in the red color and all, right? Yes. So what to do in that those kind of cases?
Recently, Gujarat High Court has said that both can issue. However, what's being done is it's because Section 6 states very well states cross empowerment hai. दोनों डिपार्टमेंट के पावर है and जिसका पहले हाथ लग गया वो कर लेगा. This is what the actually right. So sorry. The point is very clear. So yes, it's very what we can use, like we are very astonished to see that on a single issue. I'll share one instance. One of my client got a notice from the GST department that was from CGST. He replied it, the proceedings were dropped off. Okay. After 6 months, that SSC again gets a notice from the State Department. That was a total same notice what was issued by the center. Now we were under the doubt that what is being done, like, because we have already explained it to the CGST department. They are in, at the end of the day, these are both brothers and sisters, right? CGST and SGST are departments, and they are working under the GST regime. However, yes, parallel, like logically, they both operate under different acts. However, what was shocking to note is that when we replied to the State Department in regard, what a normal person would do, what a prudent man would do, we copied the same reply and sent it to the State Department. The State Department dropped off the proceedings. After 6 months, the same notice was sent by the CGST department.
Correct.
And we were in a situation that was, agar aapne ye ऐसी तंबोला खेलना है, तो we are not in a position to do that.
It's sometimes it's getting very difficult, right, to make the things or to explain to them, right, even to explain the client as well, right. At the end of the day, client used to say, sir, आप लोग ही तो करवाते हो, आप करवाते क्यों नहीं हो? Those kind of thing or situation is going on, right. So anyway, Rohit ji, it was a very nice and wonderful presentation, and it's a very good PPT as well. And Shivashish ji, you spoke very well. बहुत ही
Yes, sir.
बढ़िया रहा.
Thank you.
और the things you have explained in cases, ठीक है, we don't have much time. तो हम due to time limitation, we were not able to listen both of you completely. And I must say कि anytime soon we are going to disturb you again, right? हम कभी भी आपको disturb फिर करेंगे, आपसे request जरूर करेंगे कि आप जरूर आएं और चीज़ों को जरूर explain करें. And the way things are moving on, I hope कि government will soon look after it, and there are certain things which are going on, because जब इतनी सारी चीजें जुडिशरी में चल रही है, whether it's department level or it's a high court level or in a Supreme Court level, I certainly have a view that the things will improve, but yes, it will going to take time. Till that time we must have very patience, must have patience and all, right. तो we मतलब हमें बड़े ध्यान से और बड़े पेशेंटफुली इसको डील करना पड़ेगा, because things are not so easy as well. और I would like to congratulate and thank you to all participant as well. पार्टिसिपेंट जो आज हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं, एंड आई सर्टनली रिक्वेस्ट से कि आप लोग इसको बार बार देखने वाले हैं इस प्रेजेंटेशन को, एंड गोइंग टू रेफर यू अगेन एंड अगेन, बिकॉज रोहित जी, इन मोस्ट ऑफ द केसेस द good part of this webinars are earlier in seminar we won't have videos and all, only few cases have videos, right.
Yes, sir.
तो एक तो अच्छी बात होगी कि now we have videos, then we can refer at any point of time. Right now I have noted so many points. Now I have a complete list ki when to refer you and on what cases.
I understand that one. That actually helps.
Yeah, and the second best part of the webinar that we have saved lots of time, right? Not only the organizer point of view, but as a speaker point of view as well, right? And we बहुत बढ़िया ये होता है कि जैसे आप लोग दूर में बैठे हुए हैं डिस्टेंस प्लेस, तो वी यूज्ड टू हैव गुड स्पीकर्स एट डिफरेंट प्लेसेस, राइट. तो डिस्टेंस वाली ना दूरियां कम हो गई. नाउ वी कैन लिसन टू स्पीकर सिटिंग एट एनी प्लेसेस, राइट. तो आई थिंक शिवाशीष जी इज बिजी समवेयर. शिवाशीष, आप बिजी हो सर? आई थिंक यू आर बिजी विथ समवेयर, राइट. 2 मिनट टाइम है आपके पास. शिवाशीष जी, आप म्यूट कर लीजिए. अवेलेबल. तो सर बस आप दोनों का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर, आपने अपने बिजी शेड्यूल से टाइम निकाला, एंड इट वाज अ वेरी गुड प्रेजेंटेशन. Again, I'll request both of you to please share your PPT as well. And all participants का भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. Very soon we are going to meet you again in the month of May. Till then, thank you so much. Goodbye. Namaskar.
Hi sir, thank you for giving opportunity. Bye everyone. Take care. Namaskar.